Hey gang, it's JC and this is the Daily Dose for Tuesday, June 21st, 2011. A combined venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. Great archives, top of the page. And of course we got your eye candy feature along the bottom, Speaking Sexually with Dr. Kathy Naughton, Director of the Center for Sexual Health. And our rock and roll poll question, which we'll get into, well, let's do it right now. Yesterday we asked, do you or did you have a great father, good father? 88% of you said yes, only 12% said no. It makes me feel a little better. I thought that percentage might be a little out of whack a little bit. A lot of people have fathers that, weren't that great to them. So it's good to see that almost all of you did. And for the 12% who didn't, maybe you had a good mom. Let's leave it at that. Rock and roll poll question for today with the injury to Albert Pujols. Do you think the Cardinals are toast for the 2011 season? You can answer right there. Rock and roll poll question. We give a sort of a running account on the air every day on the Big 550 KTRS, where Trish Gazelle and I are there from noon until 3 every day. All right, Jennifer Lopez accidentally exposed one of her breasts while appearing on a German television show. Luckily, everyone was staring at her giant, enormous ass and didn't really notice. Michael Bay, the director of Transformers, has finally copped to the fact that Megan Fox was fired from Transformers because she compared him to Hitler in an interview. The comparison really sort of unfair, though. Hitler was actually a much better filmmaker. Today is the first day of summer. For evidence of this, Target and Walmart have put out their Christmas decorations, and Lady Gaga's dresses are now made of a thinner cut of beef. All right, so what does the injury to Albert Pujols mean to the Cardinals' new policy of dynamic ticket pricing, where they lower the cost of the tickets for games that are oh, that's right, they're not going to. Missouri yesterday closed its film office. Missouri now one of only 2 states not to have a film office to try to bring motion picture industry closer to their particular hometowns. Up in the air, George Clooney, one of the last big movies shot here, and now there's no effort whatsoever to ever have movies made here. One of only 2 states. Governor Jay Nixon seems like a decent enough guy, ran as a Democrat, seems to be acting a lot more like a Republican these days, and this is just stupid. I can't believe they did this. By the way, some people are saying, well, now that you're not on until 12 noon every day, you have the whole first half of the day to yourself. What have you been doing with your time? Well, a very simple answer. Earlier today, I got a 40-year-old man who takes blood pressure medication, a $500,000 policy with a highly rated insurance company. His price, $15 a month. Suck on that, Joel Clark. When my bosses at K-Hits pulled the plug on the radio show that I did over there about a year and a half ago, there were a lot of people jumping up and down, JC got fired, JC got fired. And it was pointless to even have the discussion at the time, although I finally did get into a little bit here at jcontheline.com on the Daily Dose. But you have all these legions of idiots who just are big haters, and they can't, they just love it when something bad happens to somebody who makes more money than they do and lives in a nicer house and that sort of stuff. And as I said, it's pointless to even try to have the discussion. For people who were in the industry or who actually listened when I was explaining what was actually going on, you already know the story. But as further clarification, the company and I've got nothing really against the company. It's their company. They can do whatever they want, regardless of how stupid it is. But and they just decided that they didn't want to pay for a morning show anymore. They just wanted to play music and get out of the personality-driven morning show business. And so they did, and they cut and they slashed, and that's really how they've chosen to do it. And that's their own business. Like I said, they own the station. They can do whatever they want. The problem is, and as I said, at the time, people just didn't want to hear it, but it has taken a year and a half to shake out, but now we have the physical trace evidence, because I told the people who would listen that this was part of a much larger thing that really didn't have anything to do with me. It had to do with the company that owned my last radio station was in severe, dire straits financially. And so after they whacked me, they whacked arguably the most popular morning radio personality in Chicago in the last 40 years. They whacked him at their station up in Chicago, and now today word comes that MS Broadcasting has sold their 2 Chicago stations and their 1 New York station. They're 3 of their 4 biggest stations in the chain because they have to. It's sort of like moving out of a house that you can't afford anymore. Times are tough. The truth is, I could be helping one of their stations, but that's a whole nother subject, isn't it? But it was part of a much larger, complex financial scheme involving that company, and I wish them well. And I know people are surprised to hear me say that, but I do. I worked with those guys for 10 years total, so I got a lot of friends over there. I hope they do well. Hugh Hefner's new girlfriend was his ex-girlfriend's best friend. And by the way, he apparently was hitting it all during the time he was engaged to that Crystal chick, whoever she is. Last month we heard about a lawsuit that was filed by someone who claimed that an A-list celebrity had given them herpes during a sexual encounter in Las Vegas. Well, TMZ reporting now that the lawsuit has been settled for $5 million, and we may never know who the person was. We don't even know if the person was male or female. We only know that it happened at a hotel, and it was apparently a one-nighter, and that whoever the person was assured the other person that they were STD-free, and you know the rest of the story now. Regis is leaving Regis and Kelly in November, and according to the Wall Street Journal, there are 3 people who have emerged as the most likely candidates to succeed Regis. They are Ryan Seacrest, like he needs another job, Kelly Ripa's husband, Mark Consuelos, and Andy Cohen, who hosts Bravo's Watch What Happens Live. I'm going to say he's going to be the guy that will get it. Leslie West, who many of you know as the lead guitarist and lead singer from Mountain, is 65 years old and is diabetic. And the other day he was on his way to Mississippi for a concert, and his legs started to swell up, so he went to the hospital, and they said, that's got to come off. And so now Leslie West is in a wheelchair, at least for now, because he ain't got no leg, which is incredibly ironic because in 2005 he put out an album called Guitarded, get it? Guitarded, and the cover art had him sitting in a wheelchair at a white handicap parking sign behind him, except that the stick figure in the wheelchair is holding a guitar. That is irony. Comedy Central. I can't believe this. They canceled Norm Macdonald's sports show. I thought it was very funny. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious. They also canceled Onion Sports Dome, but Tosh.0 is coming back. We research everything in this country, and for a long time when people have asked me what do you think of the death penalty, I've said, well, we research everything. Why don't we do one of those 5-year-long, incredibly comprehensive studies that you're always hearing about? There's always some sort of study about, whether the Frisbee has military potential, to all these other studies that you always hear. Why don't we do one of these big 5-year-long comprehensive studies and find out once and for all if the death penalty is a deterrent to violent, murderous type crime? And then whatever the survey says, then abide by it. Now, apparently it's a little more complicated than that. The LA Times has spent let me just put it this way. The state of California, according to the LA Times, has spent $4 billion on capital punishment since they reinstated the death penalty in 1978. At 13 executions since then, that's $308 million per execution, $184 million per year. Yeah, now that there's a financial stake in the whole thing, maybe there's some other better way of doing this. I know you're supposed to say that the birth of your child was the happiest day of your life, but according to a new survey, like I said, we research everything. Vacations are the most joyous occasions in people's lives, followed by the birth of their children, Christmas, their wedding, and then milestone birthdays. We are a shallow bunch, aren't we? You maybe were made fun of for being all over your high school yearbook, for being in all sorts of activities and have a big long big chunk of stuff under your name. Well, according to a new study, again, we research everything. The new study finds that people who participated in extracurricular activities in high school average 11.8% higher earnings as adults. It's attributed to learning leadership, management, and social skills in those clubs. Most school spirit, best speaker, St. Lawrence class in 1971. And this seems about right. According to a new study, again, we research everything, just not the death penalty. The average man spends 3 months of his life looking at porn. It breaks down to about 40 minutes a week for about 60 years. For women, it's less. They look at it for about 19 minutes a week. For 60 years, about 6 weeks of their lives. 1 in 6 people have purchased porn, and about half would purchase it if nobody knew. 20% of men and 10% of women have been caught in the act of watching porn. 11% have made their own sex tape. That's a lot. 11% of the population. And 5% actually saw someone they recognized in a porn. Now let's shove over to Facebook, where the average Facebook user has never even met 7% of their Facebook friends. That works out to about 1 of every 14. There's about another 3% you've only met once, and 1 in 10 friends who you've met 0 or 1 time. Here's some other breakout on Facebook. Average person has 229 friends. 22% of those friends are from high school, 12% are extended family, 10% are co-workers, 9% from college, 8% immediate family, 7% from extracurricular groups or clubs you belong to. Neighbors make up 2%, and of course 7%, or about 16, are people you've never met. The rest come from miscellaneous sources. Miss California won the USA pageant on Sunday. She was the only contestant to admit that she believes in evolution. There's a thing on YouTube where they've strung together all the answers of all these girls, and it is just pathetic. Back in the 1970s, if you bought something from Woolworths, there was a pretty good chance that I touched that box at some point, because for 2 summers I worked in the Woolworths warehouse on the south side of Chicago, and we had these boxes that would come down this roller thing. It was like a toboggan, and we would grab the boxes. The boxes each had a number on them. The number corresponded to a cart that we would put them on. When the cart was full, you'd push it down to the loading dock. It would go on the trucks and go. And we handled all the stuff in the Midwest. And so chances are that if you bought, an Easy Bake Oven or something like that from Woolworths, chances are I touched it at some point back in the 1970s. I mentioned that because on this date in 1879, Frank W. Woolworth opened the first 5 and dime store in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who went on to be one of the richest men in America. He sold items for no more than 10 cents and went broke. He then opened another store for a better location, and the rest is history. And it was on this date in 1977 that Elvis recorded his final TV special. He died less than 2 months later. All right, JC's Eye Candy today. I guess this would be a good time for me to resume my rant against Major League Baseball. They will not call this play, okay? If you look down the first base line, there's a little box. It's a little box, a rectangular box. It's on the outside of the first base line. That's where runners who are running to first base are supposed to run when they're running to first base, but a lot of them cheat and run inside the line. And in fact, Wilson Betterman was running inside the line on Sunday when he crashed into Albert. If he's running where he's supposed to, there's probably no collision, or if there is, it's probably not nearly as bad as what resulted in the best player in baseball being out of the game now for 6 weeks, and all because the umpires won't call it, and Major League Baseball officials won't make the umpires call it. I don't know what it is between the Cardinals and the Royals and calls at first base, but now you got the best player in the game out. I have the physical trace evidence. Look at it. It's on Eye Candy right now. Go ahead and take a look. There's the runner running inside the line. And our rock and roll poll question today: does Albert's injury mean the Cardinals are finished in 2011? Rock and roll poll question right there. Go ahead and answer, and we'll see how yous do. That's it. JC's Daily Dose for Tuesday, June 21st, 2011, a combined venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.